What is up? What is up? Welcome to Defense Diaries. I am your host, Bob Mata, and I'm really excited. I've been waiting to have this guy on. I record with him all the time, and he's got an amazing podcast called Hidden Killers, which is amazing. Tony Brueski dives into just about every single case that is hot right now, and he doesn't just do like just just shallow dives. He loves to deep dive in. That's why I love him so much. Him and I have amazing conversations once a week that he puts on his podcast. He's got so much going on. He's an amazing chef. He's an author. He's got I don't know how many podcasts he has. You'll have to tell us, man.
I don't even know myself.
You are a true revolutionary creator out here, man. You're getting it done in a million different ways. And I adore you. You're my friend first and foremost. So welcome, man. We're happy to have you. Tell us a little about yourself, man. What's your background?
First off, Bob, thank you so much. I mean, I've known you now for almost 3 years. I think we're getting close to that. And you have just been an amazing friend to me, and resource and just voice on our programs as we've been growing over there at Hidden Killers and True Crime Today. So I cannot thank you enough for everything that you have contributed to what we're doing, because we wouldn't be doing what we're doing without you. So thank you.
It's my absolute pleasure. And it's like I remember when you hit me up, man, and I was like, immediately as soon as we started hanging, and it's obviously virtually, but like I immediately felt like a kinship with you.
Yeah,
just like you and I are just a couple of guys that can really shoot the shit more than anything else, about this thing that we're both so immersed in, which is true crime. And I just really respect your opinion. I think that you have novel ideas and thoughts, and I think you're super pragmatic about shit. And you don't pick sides, man, which I love.
Yeah, you gotta wait till it's all fought out in court, as you always say. That's what we. Yeah, exactly.
So before we start digging into some stuff, like, tell everybody where they can find you. Like,
sure.
In the myriad of places they can find you.
Basic anywhere you get podcasts. So you can find our main channel, Hidden Killers with Tony Brueski. Anywhere you get podcasts. Our brand above that is called True Crime Today. That's another podcast. It's basically the same stuff on both channels there. But then we also have channels dedicated to many of the cases that are big right now. So if it's been a pretty big case in the last couple of years, we have a podcast channel for it, from everything to Ruby Frankie to the Delphi murders to you name it. We have a podcast.
Diddy, we got all of it.
Yeah. So if you just want a Kohberger is a big one. If you just want to follow a specific case, we have a channel for that.
You got it.
Yeah,
and obviously all of them. Every big case, you do deep dives on these cases. I mean, you're a huge resource for me. I mean, I'm serious. Like if I don't know anything about a case, I go right to your shit, man. And like,
we really try to dive into it, in every way, shape, and form that we can. So I mean, I have you on, we talk once a week, but you're on every day. There's a segment of you on 5 days a week. And just with everybody else, we have psychologists, we have amazing FBI agents. Robin Drake, the former head of the counterintelligence behavioral analysis program, is on with us. Jennifer Coffindaffer. It's so many different voices and different perspectives. And that's what I love about what we do, because we don't have to agree on anything. It's just, let's hear it from all these different perspectives and let's, dive into these cases, because everybody's voice and when we all hear things from different places makes us think more, which is a good thing.
100%.
And when we can think more answers can come about. And that's this lovely little, true crime universe that's out there, and what I've been up to in it for the last 3 years or so.
I mean, there's nothing better than thought-provoking information.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, like, there's nothing more enjoyable than that. It gives so much context. You'll learn things you didn't know. And it's like, it's those that are unwilling to listen, even if it's an opposing side, especially if it's an opposing side.
Yes.
It's critical to be able to reach some kind of conclusion, because then both sides of the story, or at least what both sides are purported to be. And as far as Coffin Dapper, I got to be honest with you, man. Like, there's a lot more that we agree on than
Yeah.
we don't.
I agree. I mean, I often talk to both of you almost back to back on Fridays, and it's like you're not that different on a lot of things. So no, I know.
I know
Yeah,
it's great.
yeah.
I think she unblocked me. Maybe not. I don't know.
I don't get in between any of it.
Yeah,
I love you both. So
yeah, dude, you're awesome, man. But you had a background in radio, yeah?
yeah, it's funny. I this my little long story. Started playing radio station at my house when I was two and a half.
Yeah.
I have cassette tapes of this.
Me too.
And
Swear to God.
the crazy part about it, because when I got into podcasting about 11, 12 years ago, I started by doing a podcast about ghost stories, and it still exists to this day. It's called Real Ghost Stories Online. It's a platform where people just call in, share their ghost stories, and we joke around and talk. It's lighthearted and it's fun.
Yeah.
My 2.5-year-old self was playing Ghostbuster radio into and how bizarre is that, all those years later, I'm essentially back in my basement doing the same thing, except
Dude.
this time more than just the cats listening.
Same, man. Like, so
Yeah.
like I have the exact same story now. I was an only child.
Mhm.
So like one of my primary things that I would do is I did all kinds of voices, which I still do now.
Yep.
But I would do the exact same thing. I wanted to be a sports broadcaster. That was my thing back then. I wanted to call games.
Yeah.
And so for years, like I had this little tape recorder that my dad had given me, and I would sit in my room by myself, do all kinds of voices, read certain things, whatever the case. And I have hours and hours of these tapes, which I lost, sadly.
Yeah.
But then ironically, I ended up not going to broadcast school. I ended up going to law school.
Yeah.
And so at my 21st birthday, that's when I got the Gacy tapes, which
Yes.
were recorded, Tony, on the same thing that I had used as a child, recording myself, same cassette player. And so I had all those things. And so when I finally decided to do the podcast,
Yeah.
it was like I had that same feeling, man. It was like I came back full circle.
Yeah.
It was like everything came full circle.
And yeah, it was so weird because I worked in commercial radio. I basically played it in my house till I was 14. Then I got a job at the station and I never came back home again. And I lived there basically doing any and every job I possibly could. Then I went around many different places in radio throughout the years, left it about 11, 12 years ago when I was in Wichita, Kansas, at a station called KFDI, doing afternoon radio, and just started focusing on the podcasting world and haven't really looked back since. But it's been amazing as this podcast thing has grown and as the company that I've made here with everybody I work with has grown. It's been amazing because I've been able to grab a lot of the folks that I worked with in radio throughout those years. And now they're working for me with our podcast company because so many people have left radio. So it's really neat to be able to, employ your friends and the people that help bring me up that were there, that I wouldn't be here without. And to be like, hey, we're back together again. It's so fun. And I love our podcast world that we're all in now.
It's so amazing. And it's so tight knit too. It's like there's a million podcasts out there, but kind of like in the true crime world, you kind of get to know like most of the major players and, it's an amazing thing, man. And, it was a big risk for me to do it, because I was really walking away from the law after 20 plus years. And man, it was scary. And like, it's funny. Like I would try cases in front of a jury where people's liberty was at stake, or, in some occasions their life was at stake.
Yeah.
And, I never felt any kind of nerves whatsoever. Like being in front of a jury, arguing, because you're so in the zone. The first time I ever got behind a mic, man, and I had my producer on the other side of the half wall in our basement, where that's where my studio is as well. I was terrified. like, you know, because I had the headphones on,
Mhm.
I could hear the breathing. I'm like, man, do I breathe that much? He's like, why? I'm taking these huge breaths all the time. Like
Yeah.
my S's are whistling. Like, what is going on, dude? It's like I'm freaking out. I can't do this. And he's like,
Yeah.
dude, relax. You'll get better at it. Cause like my guy's like a sound engineer, like professional sound engineer. He works in the music industry
Mhm.
primarily. But when the pandemic hit, and Darren was like out of a job because there was no music, live music anywhere. And he's down in New Orleans. He's like, I hit him up. I'm like, yo, I realized in short order, brother, I have zero idea on what the hell I'm doing. And can you come and help me? So,
Yeah.
you know, yeah, it's different but similar paths. So, all right, I want to, like, you know, so much about so many cases, and we have such fascinating conversations about
Yeah.
so many different cases. So we'll touch on a few tonight.
Sure.
We won't focus on anything in particular, but I know that you had not read the most recent filing in the Richard Allen slash Delphi case.
Yeah.
And now you've been able to kind of digest that, and I'm curious as to what your thoughts are on that.
I got to ask you this question. Are there elements to this that had not been out there before? Because it feels like I was learning a couple things in this as I was going through it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's definitely some new information in there,
Okay.
man. And it's because a lot of it is born out of that filing that was made, that motion to correct errors.
Yeah.
So that was kind of where we learned about, you know, this video of the van that
Hmm.
shows that Weber was pulling in at, you know, 252, which is, you know, 20 minutes after the state is
Yeah.
died on the hill, saying that the girls were dead at 2:32, and that they're saying that Richard Allen confessed to this Monica Walla that he saw a van and it spooked him, and so that's when he decided to unalive the girls. So like out of that was born a lot of information, and they've continued to try to dig.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did. We heard a lot of new stuff. We obviously learned that, you know, McClellan actually did have the letters.
Yeah. I feel like there was a lot of new things in here about McClelland, like behind the scenes things that we didn't have complete knowledge of or kind of assumed or wondered about. But I was surprised by the sheer, maybe just because it's all compacted into this one document. And he did a
Right.
great job writing it, by the way.
And
It was like, that was like, I read it verbatim and I felt like I was reading one of my own scripts
I
just
know.
with the snark in it.
I know, that's Baldwin, and he was rightfully so. He was equally snarky back to McClelland
Yeah.
because he was very snarky towards Baldwin in his response.
Yeah.
So, because you had the first thing that was filed, which was kind of just a bare bones, you
Mhm.
know, well, we got these, we learned of these Reese Davis things, and then, you know, I asked Nick if he had them, and I'm waiting to
Yeah.
hear. The guy hasn't told me. Why can't he just tell me? Yeah, I got him, or no, I didn't get him. So, you know, and then you get the reply by Baldwin. Yeah, he does. He has that writing style. It's like the Franks memo, dude. It was like
Yeah.
it's like reading a like kind of a book.
I mean, yeah, I mean, it built up. It was very well written, and it was fun. It was, you know, as horrible as this whole damn thing is, it
Yeah.
was kind of fun reading it as someone who, you know, does this and for a living. Just the way that he was really presenting everything, because it's so absurd. This whole case is absurd.
Yeah.
The amount of things, like if you were reading this and you had no idea where this case was or what happened with it, you'd read this and go, oh gosh, well, this must have been resolved, you know. Clearly, like, we don't know what's going to happen yet, there's just so many damn things. Like, how did this go on for this long with this many things? And if this is not a conspiracy at this point, I don't know what the hell is. I mean, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but who's being protected here? What's being protected and why? I do not know the answer to that.
I mean, that was our conversation last week. You
Yeah.
know, like we were both like collectively trying to figure that out. And it, like, believe it or not, I'm not a big conspiracy guy
Yeah.
either. I just
Yeah.
you know, the problem with conspiracies is it requires way too many people to keep their mouths shut.
It does. It does. But it feels like there's a lot of people in this community that are kind of involved in some weird things together. I was unaware of just how detailed some of the Odinist stuff was in here with some of the characters involved of what they really went into detail about the Facebook posting from way back, where like he had like the ruins, the pictures, and he had one of the suspects. I forgot what their name was off the top of my head, but he had Holder. Yeah, he had the ruins and the girls lying out basically like in the same position, and just the amount of stuff that was in Lost, and we can't find it, and it's taped over. It's just pathetic. I do not get how anybody who's working in law enforcement in that community, who's been on this case, can really sleep at night and go, yes, because these questions are just unanswered. The answers they've given don't make any sense, or they just gloss over them. Yeah, it's so baffling to me.
Well, did you have an opportunity to see, like, because after the trial, which I thought was really unusual, we started to see this kind of like global spin tour by McClelland, and we saw him on the Dateline that they did.
It continued all the way to Dateline.
I mean, dude, but and cops were doing other podcasts that were state friendly. I have a standing invite to any and all of them. Like if Holman, if McClelland, if Mullins, any of those guys want to come on, I'd love to have them on.
Yeah,
I'd love to have them on. I am not an echo chamber.
Yeah,
I would certainly ask them some pointed questions.
Yeah,
but I'm certainly, I wouldn't be considered a friendly. I wouldn't be considered a friendly podcast.
You're kind of the prosecution. Yeah.
But in terms of kind of your experience in true crimes, have you ever seen anything like that after a trial where the prosecution has gotten a conviction?
I've never seen anything like. I mean, this is out of a horror novel or something, where it's like almost like it feels almost culty in a way, where it's like we're all doing this, and okay, if this is what we say is how it is, this is how it is, and everybody, it's creepy. There's a weird creepiness to this whole thing, where there's just this. Here's our belief, and this is what it is, and nothing's going to change that. No evidence be damned. And there's so much of it here. That's what gets me. There's just so much. It's not like we're talking about little pieces here and there, and I really don't want this person to be guilty because they seem like such shucks, a gosh darn nice guy. No, there's just mountains of evidence that point to other people. And I mean, what are the odds of the child predator, Keegan Kline, catfishing one of the girls and planning to meet her the same day that she dies, and that he has nothing to do with this? I know he's never been charged with anything, but I mean, that's what has, allegedly happened. Obviously he was never charged for that one, but that's what the evidence points to. So what are the odds of that? That's got to be insane, for that person to not be somehow involved in this.
Yeah, I mean, people that like to prosecute people, namely prosecutors and their kin.
Yeah.
They often say there's no such thing as coincidences when it comes to crime. No. So and again, like I always like to say, like I'm big on the what's good for the goose is good for the gander saying, because it's true. And in this particular case, it struck me early on. Primarily, I was drawn into it by just the nonsense that was going on procedurally. I had never seen anything like it procedurally that had ever taken place in any of my cases personally, and in any cases that I've ever followed. I just had never seen anything like it, and I'm saddened. I'm truly saddened that the world didn't get to watch that entire trial, that the world didn't get. I hope against hope that all of these videos are going to surface someday. Like the bridge guy videos, but most importantly, the videos of Alan in that prison, and even equally important to that are the interrogation videos of Rick Allen that took place on 2 separate days in October of the year that he was arrested. I think, like, I'd love to watch those with you. Like, I'd love for you and I to sit there.
You got to see him in court, right? They played him. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what was your reaction to this? When you saw that, what compared to the other Richard Allen interrogations that we've seen prior to him being incarcerated, or basically in a torture chamber for a year, he seemed like a fairly, healthy, normal guy. What were you seeing in those videos?
I was seeing a guy who didn't commit those crimes. I've seen Tony, I have watched so many interrogation videos, namely from my cases, but just in terms of how they operate. They
Mhm.
were employing the Reed technique from Mullins and Liggett, I think, in the first one, and then it was Holman in the second one. They applied it in different ways, but they both applied it pretty heavily to him. And you can see Allen in the interview with Liggett and Mullins, where he immediately catches on
Yeah.
that they're trying to put him as the patsy in this thing. And he
Yeah.
says it to him. He says it flat out. He's like, I'm getting the sense that you're trying to hang this thing on me. Like I get that this thing is 5 years cold and that you want to get this thing closed, but I'm not that guy. Like, I'm not the dude. I didn't do this. Like so just everything from beginning to end. Like, there was no part of it
Mhm.
wherein I thought that he was being evasive, that I thought that he was guilty of anything and that he was acting that way. I didn't think there were like unusual pauses. I didn't think that he was like unusually nervous. I thought he was combative because I would be too. Like,
Mhm.
if somebody was accusing me of something that I didn't do, and I got the sense that they were doing it
Yeah.
because I had placed myself at that bridge, it was like, and with the whole,
Exactly.
I I mean,
It
he
scares you too, because it's like, okay, he was just being a good citizen. You try to be a decent human being in this world, and if you just, I mean, if I like to go hike, I hike a lot, or I should hike more, is what I should say. I could use a little more of it, but when I do hike, I mean, if something like that happened and I realized I was out there, I'd be calling right away. Hey, I was there. What can I tell you, like, of what I saw of anything out there? I didn't see a crime, but like, here's what people I saw, here's where I was at. You would just do it as a human being, especially if you're a parent too. This guy's a dad.
he's a
So
dad,
completely normal to call and offer up your help.
and he was out there all the time with
Yeah.
Kathy, his wife. Like, this wasn't like a one-off where,
No.
like, he had never been out there. Like, and I obviously spent 5 weeks down there in Delphi. I
Yeah.
was, I wasn't in Delphi when I was staying down there. I was about a half an hour out
Yeah.
in Monticello, but I was there every day for court. I went out to the bridge. I went out to the trails 10, 15 times, man. Like, I really got a sense of it. I walked 300 north. I did all of it. I wanted to
Yeah.
see all of it. The only thing I didn't do was trespass because I didn't want to get shot. you know, and like, so I'm like, but I really wanted to, man. Like, I was, but like, what am I gonna do? I'm doing lives. I'm not
Go
gonna
see what's in
trespass.
Ron Logan's barn.
I wanted to check out Ron Logan's barn, man.
Yeah.
So it's like all that stuff. And it's just, it is kind of the spot to go to if you want to kind of reflect and just get out with nature. It's a really beautiful area out
Yeah.
there. And it's a stone's throw from down, like literally a stone's throw from downtown Delphi.
Yeah.
Like in like the CVS he worked at, like a half a mile from like the courthouse. It's a teeny little town.
Yeah.
And and it's a town that I actually have a soft spot for. It's
Mhm.
just like, this is a spot that dude went to all the time. That's
Yeah.
like, and he parked in the same spot all the time. Kathy, when I was there, I was like, I want you to bring me out and I want me to show you where you and Rick would park all the time. And she
Yeah.
walked right to it. And she's like, well, it's paved over now. But back in the day,
Yeah.
when we used to be able to leave Delphi from the town center and we could drive right up the road. And then they had a gravel road that went right up to what is now the Freedom Bridge.
Mhm.
So, and we would park there and then we'd walk across and then we'd walk over the Freedom Bridge and then you're on the trail system. Boom, done
Yeah.
and done. And, and I'm looking at it and I'm like, because in order to think that Allen's the guy, like it has to have been because they have no evidence that Keegan Kline knew Richard Allen. They have no
Yeah.
evidence whatsoever.
Yeah.
Believe me, they looked.
Yeah.
And you don't need his phone, like the pushback on this. Oh, like he didn't have his phone from 2017. You don't need it. You just get the phone records. It'll
Yeah.
show. if you get the phone calls, the texts that went out, they're always going to have those records. It's not going to show the content, but you'll get the phone numbers. You can match it up and say, okay, well, we got a hold in Kagan Klein's case for his material that he's now in prison for.
Yeah.
And he, like, we got his burners, we got all his phones, we went through all his stuff, we got his computers, we've forensically examined all of it. Like, they would have numbers that he was communicating with, and it's like they had nothing. They had nothing linking those two human beings. So to go back to what you were saying initially about this thing, like the coincidence of Klein, like setting this thing up that day.
It's just, but there's also no, as far as we know right now, a connection with Keegan and Ron either. I mean, other than the connection that Rishi Davis has said existed, that they were exchanging their content with each other. That was through Rishi. So I don't know. But I do wonder if there was a little more digging, if that could be found, or if that had been done earlier, in this whole investigation, or did they find stuff? I think one of my thoughts on this is it's not so much that they're going to end up finding that these people are connected. It's going to be who's connected to these people that are not of their ilk, if you will. I think you're going to find people that are higher up, and I'm just talking like just classes of people. I think you're going to find some high up folks somewhere where, they dig into the, to something lower to get whatever they're going to get. And I think you're going to find something really weird and dark going on.
And I mean,
it's like, I don't know if it's gonna be like Eyes Wide Shut type of stuff.
I mean,
but it's like there is something dark and weird going on in this area. It feels like a Stephen King book.
It does. It's like Castle Rock type.
Yes,
Castle Rock type.
Gosh, it's a good one. I gotta
I mean,
I gotta go binge that again. That's a long time. I haven't seen that one. I forgot about that.
Yeah, it's a good one. And you know what? I mean, it's like you've got the Flora 4 that the 4 little black girls that were burnt up in what was believed to be an arson. And they've done little to no investigation into that case for reasons unknown. And that's a case that I've dedicated myself that I'm going to start digging into, and I want to become a loud voice on that, because I think a lot of people out there think that there's probably some connections between those two specific crimes. So I mean, we'll see where it lays. So you and I have been talking about this case for years now. Where do you stand on it? What would you like to see happen? I mean, do you think Richard Allen, and I'm going to put you right to it, do you think he deserves a new trial?
Yes, without a doubt. But honestly, I just think he should be acquitted. I think this should be overturned. I think there's so many wrongs that were done here, and there's so little to nothing that puts him there. We're going to go to trial, and we're going to go, oh, they found a bullet that you have a gun that it could fit into. So did how many other cops who were walking around this place where you found the bullet after all the cops were there that it could have fit into as well. That's what we're hanging him on. That's it. There's
and his confessions that
and the confessions after you were tortured. I forget about that one, because it's like, I don't even consider it. I mean, I know they consider it a thing, but it's like, look, you torture somebody for a year, they're going to say whatever you want. He'll say he killed Kennedy. He'll tell you exactly where he was and how he was in the book depository. I mean, he'll tell you whatever. He'll admit to being, Dahmer at that point. He'll say whatever. That's how that works. And why this element of torturing a human and then getting a false confession just baffles so many people. I don't know, other than people don't want to believe that because it fits a narrative so much easier the other way. But it's not like he was sitting there for 24 hours and that was it. It was more than a year. I mean, and getting just, harassed, and he's eating his own poo at a certain point. Okay, you're not going to take anybody seriously who's doing that. He can't buy a car at that point and go, sign off here. Oh, is that a chocolate? Oh, no, it's not. My God, what is he doing? But you couldn't sign a legal document. So, but this is going to be, the evidence. I'm sorry. It's just, it defies. I feel like we're talking about a different world here on this case, and I don't understand how really anyone believes that he could have done it. I understand the families wanting to have resolution. I understand some of the locals wanting resolution too, but at
Well,
the
I mean,
cost
the
of what?
scary
At
thing
the
is,
cost of
man,
what?
right? I mean, like the reality is if he's not the guy, which I firmly believe he is not, that
Yeah.
means that there are killers out there
And
still.
that's a scary prospect because it's much easier to sleep at night if you keep telling yourself you got the guy, and maybe he's not just one of these folks that still lives among them.
Yeah, I
Or he's
mean,
dead.
yeah, it's so yeah, I mean, it's going to be hard fought, and
Yeah.
the reality is that it's really really hard to overturn these things and get them kicked back for a trial, and it's like in an appellate court, it's not their thing. They're not going to say, oh well, we don't think he should have been convicted. If they say that we're overturning it because he didn't get a fair trial,
Yeah.
they kick it back to McClellan, and McClellan says, okay, well, here you go. You're going to try it again. And McClellan's on record as saying he's like, they're unequivocally going to try it again, if it gets kicked back to him. So then we go through it all again. And I hope this time that the attack of the timeline is the number one priority of the defense. Like, I would assume that if it's getting kicked back, that they were going to allow third party culprit defense come in, and then you attack the timeline.
You
'Cause
would
if
hope.
attack the timeline, it brings in the third party culprit defense because of the arguments that are being made that those people that they were pointing fingers at, or Ron Logan, for instance. You can't subscribe to the state's timeline. Their timeline is based on nothing. Their
I know.
timeline is based on them wanting Rick Allen to be the guy.
Yes, I mean, all their denials are based on nothing other than they want it to be Rick Allen. I
Right.
mean, it's just, yes, you would hope all these things happen, but if we're right back there in that same jurisdiction and you got the same prosecutor, and God forbid Gull is still there,
Yeah.
it's like,
I mean,
it's just a brick wall. Like, it's never, like, as long as it's going to be tried there, it's not going to work. I mean, unless it's like many years down the road, which this could take many years. Maybe you'll get some different people in here that are players in this. But I just feel like there's something so higher up in this community that it's beyond McClellan. It's beyond Gull. I don't feel like they're like evil people, or like they're there really trying to do something. But there's some reason that these blinders are up, and I don't understand what it is.
yeah, me either, man. Yeah. All right. So we've got a case with Judge Gull. I'm going to switch over to the judge in the crosshairs right now, which is Judge Beverly Cannoni.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit about Karen Reed.
Okay.
So we got trial is looming. It's supposed to start April Fool's Day, April 1.
Surprise.
Where are you at with this? Are you like, I know you, like, I was just telling you, I was just getting off the live with all the motions and eliminate the
Yeah.
came in today. I know you haven't been able to check those out. Yeah, they're your typical stuff. There's some interesting stuff in there though.
Yeah.
Where are you at with that right now?
Well, I'm really curious to know what was filed today. So, but as far as just like overall on the case, I'm really, I mean, as middle of the road as you can be on the case. I'm just very pragmatic on it. I don't think either side is really doing a wonderful job here. And I don't think either side is 100% right. I think there's so many moving parts. I think this thing was handled very unprofessionally from the get-go, and it goes beyond just Proctor saying horrible things to his buddies. And oh, by the way, Fanning's on that text string too. And I mean, it's like that goes beyond that. This was just handled wrong from the get-go. I mean, we're talking about a bunch of people going out and getting drunk, and then bad things happening, and then nobody really being sober enough to say, here's exactly what happened. Or if I did say it's exactly what happened, or here's what I think what's happened, and I'm going to walk that back. And it's just this and that. It's so chaotic. Honestly, I at this point, I kind of go to, what would John O'Keefe want? I mean, I don't know John O'Keefe, but if he's standing somewhere looking down at all of these people in his community and his friends and his family, I don't think he's happy. I don't think he's going to be like, good job, guys, you're handling this lovely.
Right.
I don't think he would be of that opinion. I think she had something to do with it on accident. I do not think she was plotting to murder him or even tried to kill him, or it was maybe even aware that she had something to do with, I don't know, him possibly falling down. I do not know the answer to that question. But obviously, she was there. She was drunk. There was some sort of altercation of some sort. Enough for it to be murder? No, not at all. There are some elements where, it does seem like there might have been contact with the vehicle, like the microscopic glass that they found in some of his clothing from the tail lights. Like, okay, that's more than just some weird pieces that are kind of scattered, which I certainly do have questions about those. But it does appear that maybe there was something that happened. Again, I do not think anything was intentional. I also do not think he went into the house and his buddies beat him up and then drug him out to the end of the curb. I think being, law enforcement officers, as questionable as you want to say how good or bad they are, you'd still have at least enough sense not to be like, hey, let's drag him to the curb and hope for the best. I just don't think anyone would do that. And I don't think he got beat up. My guess is it's very similar to yours. I think he got out of that car. Maybe he got bumped, and it could have just been a very light tap, quite honestly. It didn't have to be much. And he slipped and he fell and hit the back of his head. He got back up, probably had a bit of a concussion going, tried to kind of get his bearings about him and fell back over.
Yeah.
And the dog, that's the other thing. I don't know. It looks like I fell off my bike a lot as a kid. It looked a lot like kind of a scrape that you could go, oh, maybe Dracula bit me by the way these two rocks, hit it. Or it could just been somebody's dog. Like here laying out there dying in the street. It's cold. People are letting their dogs out. Go, get out, come back in. Any neighborhood dog maybe could have gone over and done that, or the coyote problem they had in the neighborhood, or maybe even Chloe could have done it. There is a casting of the dog's mouth. The dog is still alive. Why we haven't looked at this in greater detail, I don't know. But I just, at this point, I wish they would just say, okay, Karen, you can go. We're never really going to know. We don't think you had any true intention here. And these people, we don't think killed them. Let's just all move the hell on with our lives, because I don't think any of this was in malice.
No, I mean, and they're going at her with that second degree murder thing again, and which to me is absurd, and like, I guess I'm more definitive on it. Like, I don't think that that vehicle struck him at all. I think that I'm very secure about that. I put a ton of weight into both Wolf and Rensler, who are the ARCA guys, those guys are very definitive for me.
Let me just ask you that because that's the part that sticks with me is the clothing and the microscopic fibers. Now, again, we have to consider the source of where that information is coming from as well. Now, if we're going to argue that maybe some taillights are planted, I guess it wouldn't be crazy hard to grab a piece of evidence or a piece of the clothing and jam a piece of the taillight into it too and create it, after the fact. I'm not accusing anyone of doing that, but that is a sticking point. How did that happen? How are those microscopic pieces in there?
Yeah. I mean, to me, it would have been in the situation wherein and I'm just going to take the conspiracy part out of it, of whatever may or may not have happened in the house. To me, it's always been, I always look at this case very pragmatically. I'm looking at it. If I was trying the case and I'm just trying to win, because you really are, even though it's not an actual burden shift. When Yannetti starts off that Karen was framed, it shifts in the minds of the jurors a burden, and the jurors are going to be expecting at some point to hear how she was framed, and they have to be able to sell it to them. You put that onus on yourself during openings, because that's the whole point of an opening argument or an opening statement. You're saying, look, this is what you can expect to see during our case in chief. This is what you're going to see. So the one thing that I do not put past any of those cops in Canton or the MSP is I think that they think that Karen hit him. I think that Proctor reached that conclusion very early on. And I think that it's one of those cases like Dean Strang, Stephen Avery's lawyer. It's my favorite quote of his. I say it all the time. Cops don't plant evidence on people that they think are innocent.
Yeah.
Cops plant evidence on people they think are guilty.
Yeah.
And they think that their case is weak.
Okay,
And they
look,
think it needs a little bit of a boost.
here's Teresa's keys. They happen to be right here in your house.
I mean,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
in terms of, I've got two possible explanations for why there might be microscopic fragments of the
Okay.
taillight, and it's plastic. It's not even glass. It's like the
No, yeah,
plastic from
yeah.
the taillight. So, and they're microscopic, right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, you get a guy to just shave a little piece of like the taillight off. Like everything that's going on with the Sally Port thing, man, has me so pissed off
Yeah.
in terms of what the Commonwealth is up to, in
Yeah.
terms of the fact that they put Buchanan on the stand to say that that was a fair and accurate depiction of the Sally Port.
Mm-hmm.
It's got me to the point where I'm not putting it past them having done the things that they felt that they needed to do to get this conviction.
Yeah.
And in terms of taking a few little scrapings and just spreading them on John's sleeve.
That could be
when
the
they
answer.
had-
Yeah.
I mean,
that-
dude, like they had his
it-
clothes in custody when they took him from the hospital. They were in
you're
there.
right.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Or the other explanation is like, I mean, we know Lucky Loughran. He plowed, dude. Like, I live in a snow state.
Yeah.
When they throw snow off those plows,
Yeah.
snow flies.
And yeah.
So like if they had laid out some shit at some point, maybe the shit gets tossed out there. Because like I've been all over with trying to figure out what happened, because the one thing that I know is that my common sense is telling me that if John O'Keefe was hit, it would have had to have been at 24 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Right. And even if he's grazed, slightly hit, he is going to have contusions. He's going to have bruises. I don't care where he's hit on his body. That is not how this thing works. The physiology of it, he didn't die right away. We know that, at least if we're to believe what the medical examiner put, who came back with an undetermined cause of death in terms of, what the mode of death was, whether it was homicide, suicide, whatever the case may be. You've got this situation where they don't know, and they came back with blunt force trauma to the head and hypothermia.
Yeah.
Hypothermia tells me that he didn't die right away. You just don't die immediately from hypothermia.
No.
So the bruising certainly would have started to occur. I mean, we're talking about a 6,000-pound vehicle, man.
Yeah.
And it's like to me, the injuries begin and end the case against Karen Reed.
Yeah.
Like without me even having to get into the weeds of
I hear what you're
either
saying.
side's theory. You know what I'm at? Like, and that's just where I'm at on it. Like, and I unequivocally agree, obviously, that I think that they should dismiss the charges.
Yeah.
I think that for the shenanigans, the tomfoolery that these guys played, during this entire investigation, like starting with everything, all of it.
There's too many questions about exactly what happened, and nobody's going to know the answer to it. We're never going to truly get there. And that exactly, it's like there is a lot of reasonable doubt here that she hit him. What gets me then is the whole conspiracy. Like that to me, it's like, why would there should be, I felt like there was enough with this case without going down that road. It just, it seems to like anger people. And that's the part of this case that I really, really, I hate, that's what makes me more and more, angry about the situation. Is no one has fanned the flames have only been fanned. No one has tried to put out the flames of this vile behavior that some of these Karen Reed supporters have. And I'm not saying everyone, but there are some truly vile people out there that have zero respect and zero decorum and just, I don't know, just like they don't have empathy for anybody. And the way that they've gone after many of these family members, including the kids and people that are just trying to live their life. I mean, you're talking about a small community. Why are you going after people that really have nothing to do with this? That to me is just vile. But the fact that the flames have only been fanned by Reed and that defense is kind of sickening to me. That I don't like. I get it goes in your favor, but you're creating kind of a monster group over here, and they've kind of turned Karen Reed into something that she's not, some sort of like folk hero. She was a drunk woman that was drunk driving and very irresponsible one night, and may have potentially killed someone because of that behavior. That's not a hero.
Yeah, well, let me give you some pushback on it.
Yeah.
So let's start with, what about the 227 text? Do you think that like, let me pose it to you this way. If that 2:27 a.m. text actually took place and was in fact deleted,
It wasn't at 227.
how do we like I did not
The
find,
people from Cellubrite are the ones that brought you that explained it.
we had this out on your show, and I'm going to have
Yes.
it out again.
But that's the answer. Like, okay, we made the video game. Here's the instruction manual. Here's how to play it. No, I think I want to play it this way because it says this on the screen. Well, we know it says that on the screen, but here's what it actually means in the instruction manual. You have to look at it this way because we made the thing. We invented it. But I want to say it's just because it works better. That's lovely. It works better, but it's not reality. That's
so,
it.
but and here's my pushback. So when
Go for it.
they used different, like Gray Key, they used different software to
Yeah.
analyze it. It showed up as being there. So, and we're talking about a completely different technology, completely different program.
Mhm.
You know, it's like when you've got other companies, because they're all trying to figure out the secret sauce of Apple, right? They're always trying to do that. They're always trying to dig in. It's why these companies exist.
Yes.
Like if Apple was forthright about, what their alien technology was, I don't think we'd have a situation where, because I didn't find Ian Whiffen at all convincing, but I didn't find Green very convincing either. I was left after the trial
Mhm.
wondering whether or not that goddamn text took place. I just didn't find Ian Whiffen as convincing as you did. I
Yeah.
mean, the guy's out there creating his own software because he's saying that Cellubrite sucks. So he's working for a company, but he's developing his own software. So
Yeah.
and I mean, they have a vested interest as a company to have things go the right way for law enforcement, because who their biggest
Yeah.
consumers are law enforcement. They make all their money from law enforcement agencies.
Good argument. Yeah.
Well, I mean, look, dude. So let's just assume for a minute that the 227 thing did happen.
Okay.
How does that change? If it does, how does that change your opinion on what may have gone down?
It would be highly implausible that she's going and like looking up how long to die in cold and then going for basketball scores. I don't buy it. I like it, and then suddenly like this day she becomes this cold-hearted, horrible, witch that how long to die in cold. Hey, wonder how the kids are going to do in basketball. Like it doesn't. I don't. If you're in that situation, I don't think so. I mean, you can make an argument on some of the officers. I mean, you can make an argument on someone like Fanning and stuff when we start talking about the Birchmore case, but I just don't. It doesn't make any sort of reasonable sense to me that is the order in which things took place.
I mean, if they're so we're going to get a second trial, right? And
Yeah.
and I'm hoping that the it's going to be tightened up by both sides in terms of what they're going to put out there.
Mhm.
I'm hoping that we get some more definitive information, because to me, like, again, and I've said this ad nauseum, if I were trying the case with my wife, Allison and I would not be focusing on anything on the outside, other than the fact that I've got two amazing witnesses that were hired by the Department of Justice that came down unequivocally that John O'Keefe was not struck by a motor vehicle, and that
Yeah.
the damage to that vehicle was not caused by John O'Keefe's body. My case begins and ends with that.
Yeah.
So, and Allison's always been giving me pushback. She's like, well, we have to, like, how do you address the taillight stuff. And I'm like,
Mhm.
well, like I'm not putting it past these cops of dropping a few pieces out there. Like, you know what I mean? Like that part of it tracks in terms of, again, that concept that when cops think that something happened and their case needs a little push, they're just
They're
dudes
human,
and
and yeah, I
right.
mean, it happens. I'm not saying every cop is like that or they're all bad by any
No, you
means.
can't.
Yeah, no, and I'm not anti-police, but I'm anti-bad police.
Me too.
Like,
I'm massively
anti-bad police
anti-bad
work,
cops.
and I wish, and I hear it so often from people in law enforcement that are good people in law enforcement is, the worst people, that law enforcement, don't like are the bad ones that are in it. Well, then we need to see more law enforcement start stepping up and calling these people out when they're bad and going, look what this person is doing. This is going to give us a bad name. I mean, there needs to be a far better bar for this to address these sort of things and publicly weed it out. That's the only way that a lot of trust is going to be rebuilt, is if from the inside it's going, yeah, we recognize this and we are going to do everything we can to fix it.
Yeah, and see, like my thing with the whole conspiracy thing is like, while I don't think that they need it, I'm not willing to completely disregard it at all.
Yeah.
And it's because of the relationships that, like you said, man, this is a small town. And like you said, these were all cops in that house.
Yeah.
Everybody had something to lose.
Yeah.
There was a lot at stake there. And
And the
you know
thing
what?
is, yeah.
Because there are two different issues for me. Like
Yeah.
because like what happens after if someday down the road that somebody in that house turns around and says, you know what? Um, that shit the defense was thrown out there actually is what happened.
Yeah.
So then if you're forced to then look back in retrospect to the behavior of the more exorbitant, more, intense Karen Reed supporters out there in terms of what they've done, and you look at it in retrospect, if you come to find out that in fact that did go on in
Mhm.
the house,
That'd
does
be
that
quite a
d- d-
conspiracy. There'd be
does that
quite a lot of
change?
people that kept their mouth shut.
I mean, it would. Like, and like I said, like I hate conspiracies like that. But in terms of, it's not a massive number. And when you get people to stay quiet long enough and they're all dug in on it, we're not talking about hundreds, and we're not talking about like a
Again, what would
massive
the
amount of
motive be?
cops.
Why would they go and kill their friend?
I know, like my thing is, if something happened in the house, it wasn't intentional. That
Mhm.
there was like some kind of like, and I take shit for this. Like people
Okay,
are like,
that's an
I
interesting
don't
angle.
like, I've always been like a brawl happened in there. Like my thing, as soon as I found out that Higgins was in text communication with Karen, I was like, all right, that explains a
Yeah.
potential of why John may have gone into that house hot. If he's like, if they're in the car, Higgins was at the bar that night. He's like, so what's up type shit. If she's got her phone plugged into the Lexus and she's got her shit where her text messages pop up on the screen and John sees it and he's like,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
like I'm like, dude, like that made a lot of sense for me to where he comes in hot. He goes after Higgins. Some shit goes down on there. Maybe
Like
he
it was one
gets
of those deals where it's like you're not intending, you're like you're pissed, and I don't know. I've never fought anybody in my life, but let's say he goes in there and he just strikes him, or somebody strikes John O'Keefe back, and it's just one of those blows where it's like he falls back, hits his head perfectly. Yeah, it can kill you. I mean, you hit your head, the back of your head, right there, really hard on something. Yeah, you can die pretty quick, and that's how so many deaths happen on ice as well. People slip and they hit the back of your head, or you can do some serious damage. Yeah, I hear you. I hear where.
yeah. Look, I
But
mean,
there's just there's not any pieces that point to this idea as being verified. That's but they also didn't go in and investigate the house. They didn't go in and look for evidence. They didn't look at anything like this. But would you realistically go into that house and look for this if you're immediately kind of assuming or you're wanting to push it as being basically a hit and run or an accidental, a drunk driving incident. Would police normally go in and investigate that if that's what they're looking at as immediately? Or was it very strange that they didn't go in? I don't know the answer to that.
I do.
What is it?
Well, I think the answer is, Tony, if they found somebody, and remember, he wasn't like on the curb.
No,
he was 15 feet into the yard.
Yeah.
Well, I happen to tell you, like, my friend, if a dead body ends up on your front yard, I can assure you the police will be trying to get a warrant to come in and check your house out.
Why didn't they look for? I mean, I know there was a lot more snow and stuff, but was there? I mean, there had to have been some way to look at some sort of print or, some sort of marking in here to figure out where he was coming from. But again, not looked at or just brushed aside, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, at the point in time when they decided, they being Proctor, that Karen Reed had hit him, like that took care of all the business in terms of them doing it. Like, it's classic tunnel vision.
Yeah, it is.
And it's like, so, like, look, man, I like, you're taking heat in the chat from the chair, but you know what?
But look, I want to hear all angles. I'm not saying I'm 100% right. I'm just giving you my thoughts, and I want to hear the argument. So
that's why I love this conversation.
Yes, and that's why I love. That's why I love having you on, because you make me think about things in ways I would not think about them. So look, I'm not saying any of your ideas could be wrong. I'm not saying I'm 100% right, anybody. I'm just kind of giving you where my thoughts are at right now. But that's why we have dialogue.
Exactly. It's like, and it's like that's why I was saying, man, I wanted to find some prosecution side lawyers out there to come on for a panel where it was all lawyers.
Yeah.
And it's just where somebody's convincing me that John O'Keefe was struck by the vehicle. Forget everything else.
Yeah.
Because the defense has zero burden here. It's like people get stuck in the morass and they want the conspiracy thing to be proven. I don't know that ever can happen unless somebody comes forward, if something in fact did happen in there. I don't know how that's happening. We know that the feds have now at this point concluded their investigation. I think if they would have found any smoking gun evidence on any of the devices, they would have moved on it. I mean, the feds don't play. So like, in terms of what they found, it's like, I get it.
Yeah.
It's like I get it. And I'm in a different mindset. Like, I'm not putting it past the people in there.
Yeah.
If I was defending the case, I wouldn't be bringing it up, only because I want to win. And I just think it makes it so much harder for the defense, because you then have to convince 12 people of what exactly I'm trying to convince you of during this live.
Well, yeah, I mean, and what has gotten me on this in the past handful of days, looking more into, some of the players in this, is specifically Fanning. I mean, all you have to do is go look back at the Sandra Birchmore case and see his involvement there and go, yeah, the guy has a pattern of either being completely incompetent or covering up murders. Allegedly. I'll throw that allegedly in there, because I mean, Birchmore, that's a other case. I'm sure everybody, for the most part, that's watching is familiar with it. Just that whole deal of just, come on. I mean, this was clearly anyone who had their mitts on that and like signed off that this is a suicide should be like under some sort of investigation. I know the feds went and looked into the Karen Reed case. It took the feds to get the damn Sandra Birchmore case off the ground because it was all tucked away for years. That is an interesting character in all of this. Again, he's never been charged with anything, so I'm not accusing him of anything. But other than, how did you miss some of this stuff? It's more of a question than it is an accusation. You did. You missed a lot of stuff in the Birchmore case. So how did that happen? And why should you believe that you just happened to accidentally miss it?
And the worst part of that is that Brennan was then sitting in court championing Fanning as being this.
That lost me.
I was like, dude, I'm like
that. Yeah. I mean, look, I've been kind of in the middle, but I've been more so on the area of, I think she had some sort of involvement, but it was a complete accident. She shouldn't be in this position right now. But after I saw that the other day, where Brennan's up there and he's just like, and I'm just paraphrasing, he's one of the most respected law officers in the state and blah, 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 blah. Like, who the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, I was like, what? What are you saying?
Are we talking about the same character here? Have you seen the story of Birchmore at all? Because that like really doesn't look good that he had anything to do with being of any sort of capacity of being in charge over there.
But T, all I'm telling you, same department, bro.
Exactly. And that's look, I do not think this department are angels, and I do not think they're on the up and up at all. I really do think that the longest time I felt like and my conjecture is that they knew Karen did it, but they really wanted to be sure they were going to get her. So they're like, well, let's just put a little more weight on the scale over here. The weight might happen to be pieces of her taillight. I don't know. Or I don't know, whatever else that they could kind of, jimmy in there. But it just, it's like, you didn't need to do that. Like you could have, you're good without it, quite honestly. And then that then makes you doubt everything that they've done. And there probably are a lot of things that are very questionable. There's probably some things that are fairly legit too. But once you introduce that doubt and you introduce that nefarious behavior that should be the last thing coming from law enforcement, yeah, you're going to really start questioning everything they're doing. And when we see a pattern of that behavior amongst different cases, then you really start to go, what the hell is going on here?
And that's my point.
Yes.
Like you cannot discount it. I mean, the shit that they did in Birchmore is the most disgusting shit that I've ever. I mean,
yes.
she was a child when that started.
Yeah,
and everything they did, it is like it should make people's skin crawl.
And she's being passed around by the twin brother. And dude, look, I mean, and I'm sorry, an independent investigation into their law enforcement office is not going to cut it. I mean, and I'm sure the records are gone, because I'm sure whoever what was going on back in those days when she was in the Police Explorer program at 12 or 13 or something. And this is when the grooming begins. I have a very hard time believing, especially after the fact when she was of age, that more officers were passing her around, including the school resource officer. And I'm not trying to be crass, but that's exactly what they were doing, because they were treating her like an inhuman thing. And it just is disgusting as shit. But I would not be surprised.
They were basically trafficking her.
They were trafficking her. That's exactly what they were doing.
I know.
And it's just like,
yeah, dude.
Yeah, it's so
I'm gonna leave you with this thought and this ponderable. Do you have any Irish buddies from Boston?
No, but I met some that were Karen Reed supporters when I was on a cruise recently.
Right. So I've got an old friend.
Okay.
He's a Southie.
Yeah.
Guy's name is Jay Sullivan, as Irish as he can get. And he moved to Chicago, I don't know, 20 years ago. And if you've ever been around any Irish Boston guys that are drinking, these guys, and I hate to stereotype anybody, but these dudes love to fight. Like it is in their DNA.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it goes all the way back to bare knuckle boxer John Sullivan back in the day. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
My point being, you had a bunch of drunken Irish cops.
One of them was airboxing in the video.
Yeah, like I didn't make as much of that as the defense did. I got why they did it, but what I'm saying is, when you infuse alcohol into a bunch of Irish Boston guys,
sure,
fights are bound to happen. Like, so I just want you to think about those things. And, it's like, it's one of those things that I don't know what happened, if anything happened in that house. Again, when I start from the premise that the only thing I'm confident on, and the state has not shown any indication whatsoever to me through one first trial, is that John O'Keefe was struck by that vehicle.
Yeah.
That begins and ends the story for me, because the rest of it really is kind of superfluous. I mean, it's not, in the sense, if something did happen in that house, those people should ultimately be held responsible.
Sure.
Obviously, if it didn't, if this is just like, I've posited, I take all kinds of shit for it. I don't
Mhm.
care. Like, I don't think, like, I think John could have, he was at a the 0.286. Guy was
Mhm.
shit faced.
Yeah.
Like, he could have easily gotten out of the car, whipped the glass at the back of the truck when she's leaving,
Yeah.
after maybe he saw the Higgins text. He's like, fuck you, Karen, whips the thing. It's slick out. He's hammered. He loses his balance, falls back, just smashes his head. Doesn't need to be hit by jack shit.
No, I mean,
And
I get it. I mean, I wasn't Irish guys, but I grew up in Wisconsin. There was some Irish guys there, but there were Wisconsin Irish guys. But look, Wisconsin has the highest alcohol tolerance and drinking of any state in the country,
and cheese consumption.
and cheese consumption too. So I get what you're saying. I recognize that, like, that sort of behavior where it is what it is.
I'm just saying it's all food for thought. It's
Yeah,
all
no,
food
it
for
is.
thought.
It is.
So, and we'll see. We'll see what goes on in this second trial. It'll be interesting. It'll be another interesting trial with some super toxic shit going online.
At the end of the day, the only one who knows what happened is a coyote.
I take so much shit for that coyote thing. People are like, "What are you fucking
No,
nuts about? Are you crazy?"
I completely agree with you. I think we both independently came up with it, and we're like, "That's what I think too."
People were like, I was like, and who else was I on? Somebody else I was on with. They brought up the coyote thing. I was like, "Oh my god!" It was like the other day. Who the fuck? I can't remember who it was. I was on with somebody, and they brought it up, the coyote concept. I'm like, "Oh my god, wasn't you?" I know you and I have like,
yeah, I have a neighborhood. When I look at geographically, it's kind of like that setting where there's a kind of a big forest in the back here, but we're in the city. And we have coyotes all the time in our neighborhood during the day as well. Like, we have the neighborhood Facebook page, and somebody's like, "There's a coyote in the neighborhood again today. Might want to watch your dogs." But yeah, it happens. I mean, it's not a crazy thing. And they already were known for having coyote problems there.
I know they
So it's
were
kind of like,
yeah, like I've gotten a lot of pushback. I'm like, "Yo, do a little bit of research into that period of time out there." They
yeah.
were having a coyote issue. Like, I'm just like, I'm not making it up. I have no stake in the game.
No, exactly. It's another
like,
piece of information.
a coyote certainly would qualify as a large canine type animal.
That would make
Very
for a great
similar in style.
that
So
make for a
whatever.
great episode of either Unsolved Mysteries or Rescue 911.
It was Kirk. Thank you, Ann. It was Kirk Nurmi. I had Kirk on the other night, and he like brought up the coyote thing. I felt like I was listening to myself.
It was this dog. It was this small little dog right here. This
Is that a
golden
sweet little
doodle.
doodle? It's a
This
doodle.
is Belle the golden doodle. Yes.
Love it. It's adorable. All right, I want to wrap on Kohberger.
All right. Yeah.
I want to get your thoughts.
Let's go to Kohberger.
Yeah. Now I like, I've got, I'm a defense channel. So I get people that are like upset with me that my gut is pending trial always. I don't know how many times I have to say that for people to believe that I mean that to the core of my being. I am not fixed on any kind of thing until I go to, until I'm either at trial or I've seen a trial, because everything that I'm hearing in pretrial motions is merely speculation in terms of it being a theory that one side has developed, and that's it. And until it gets tested at trial, we don't know shit. And that goes for both sides, right?
Yeah.
So, but I happen to think that they got the right guy.
Yes.
Like, can I be convinced otherwise? Absolutely. If this comes out at trial and that DNA is for shit.
Yeah.
I just think everything about that dude rings right to me in terms of, yeah, of course. So, Julie, I always, well, no, there's a difference between a presumption of innocence and thinking somebody is innocent.
Yeah.
The presumption of innocence is a legal standard. It's a mindset that everybody has to think in this country going in. You have to, because the concept is that the state has to prove their case beyond a reasonable doubt.
Sure.
That's why the presumption of innocence is so important, because you can be found not guilty and not be innocent.
Yes.
They're two very different things.
Yes.
Like, I've had judges where we've won trials and they said, hey, You know, like where the judge, after we got a not guilty, the judge specifically admonished our client, and it was a bench trial. And the judge said, "Sir, just because I found you not guilty, that does not mean that I think that you were innocent. What I'm saying to you is the state did not meet their burden." So there's a big difference in those two
Mhm.
concepts. Like
Sure.
you guys like out there need to understand that. That's not a thing that I think. That is a fact.
Yeah.
That they're not the same thing.
Mhm.
Factually innocent is one thing, and not guilty is another thing. Now,
Yeah.
does that mean that somebody who's found not guilty can be factually innocent? Of course,
Mhm.
obviously. But just because somebody's found not guilty, that can oftentimes be that the state did not meet its burden.
Sure.
Just understand that. I happen to think in the Karen Reed case that she's factually innocent.
Mhm.
Um, I also happen to think that Richard Allen is factually innocent, which
Yeah.
now has everybody thinking that I think that everybody's factually innocent, which like after we have the Kohberger trial, I'll be able to state definitively what I think. And I think that ultimately that thing's gonna play itself out in a way that he's going to get convicted. But
Yeah.
I could be wrong. I have no idea. I don't know what all the evidence is. Um,
Yeah. I'd be
so
very curious about a lot of it, of what we
yeah,
don't know
I
yet.
got to hear it all.
Yeah.
It's like people like that are telling me that he's innocent in chat. I don't care about all the noise out here. All
No.
I care about is the evidence at trial,
Uh,
because we don't know it.
what
As much as we think we know, there's 10 times more
Yes. Well,
that.
and we're just starting to see more of it because of the gag order on the case and the judge finally saying, we need to be a little more transparent here. So just this last week, we saw some of the text message string come out. Some of it was redacted, and the 911 call also made. And I know a lot of people had been very stuck on, well, why didn't they call 911 immediately? And that's been an interesting thing, and I've been arguing it kind of throughout the week, but I'm curious, what is your take on all of that, because that's the big question. Okay, here's a string of text. It seems pretty authentic, it seems pretty legit, but why on earth did it not run through their minds to call 911?
Well, and oddly, it was our conversation where you kind of like made me start thinking about the concept that kids and just us
Yeah.
as a society like we communicate in a different way. Like
Yes.
back when I was 18, cell phones did not exist. There
Hmm.
was no texting. We didn't have anything like that. If I'm in a situation like that, and I'm afraid, I don't have 20 buddies on a text thread that I can hit up and be like, dude, what the fuck is going on here? Like,
Yeah.
what is happening, man? Like y'all need to get over here. Some weird shit's going on. They'd be like, oh, what are you talking? I mean, like, so you did like it was just a different time, so and I think that concept probably has faded
Hmm.
in terms of. And the other thing that I obviously thought, the thing that I brought up to you is like, if it is a party house, maybe there's bags of shit laying all over the place.
Well,
I don't know.
yes.
I have no idea,
Yeah, and
but
that's a
like,
very good point.
I'm just like I am never calling the police to my parties, man. Like
Hmm.
that's just me personally. I've been dealing with them long enough. I don't involve the cops in my life unless I absolutely need to.
Hmm.
And I think that Bethany was enough of a kind of a counterbalance to what Dylan was feeling, because she was on the first floor and she didn't see any of this shit.
Yeah.
That she was enough of a counterbalance to Dylan where she was probably like, yo, do you want to like deal with the fucking police at 4:30 in the morning here when it was probably maybe Xana walking around in all black? Like whatever she
Yeah.
was saying to her. We saw some little bits of that in the text stream.
Yeah.
So like from that point, I can understand it. And I think that again, when we hear these students get on the stand and give us their explanation, um, I think that there will be some real clarity with that. Where I
Yeah.
think that I'm going to lose the clarity is that why, as soon as they open their eyes at 10:30 in the morning and they invite the frat guys over, why
Yeah.
the cops aren't called immediately.
And
Like
I think, yeah.
why like they're like she opens her eyes at 10:32 in the morning, and it is just it's just a problem for me.
It is weird. But again, I think it comes from perspective of age and just what's normal and what is part of just kind of the lexicon of how they communicate. I mean, there's plenty of things that I continue to learn. I'm sure you do too, with your kids, where it's like, really, this is how you guys do that now? Like, okay, whatever. And if you say something, it's like, Dad, that's just not like whatever. But I think that there's something there where, look, when we were back at that day, if something happened in you don't know what the hell to do, you're in a corner and you probably have to find a landline if you're going to call anyone. And it's probably going to be 911. But that's not how they do it. I mean, if you're in a corner, you're not immediately going to be thinking that your roommates are being murdered upstairs. Especially you have a party house, people come and go all the time. It's like, okay, calm down. And we saw the guy leave. Okay, problem done. It's all quiet now. Everybody's probably back in bed. They're not answering. They're drunk. I'm pretty tired too. Let's go pass out. It's late at night. And they don't get up till 10. That's normal for that age. Now, when they get up and they're still not calling 911, again, a bit odd. But again, look, I say it a lot, and because we've all been there, young and dumb. We were all young and dumb. And we've all made dumb decisions when we're younger, or we make decisions that you learn from later in life going, okay, this probably would have been a better path over here. But at this moment in time, I thought calling this guy that I thought was, I could trust and he could protect me to come over more than that. It's just how that's what, however they got programmed, that's how they thought. But I think it was very interesting how the statements that were made really very much show they were not in like some sort of like catatonic state or shock in the corner, like shaking. They were very much with it. And I think that validates their argument that their eyewitness testimony is pretty credible, especially the bushy eyebrows part, the part that the defense wants to have kicked out. It's very interesting. All of the pieces that remotely pointed to being Kohberger that the eyewitnesses came up with are like, we can't have that. We don't want to use the word psychopath or sociopath or bushy eyebrows or Brian Kohberger at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's fine. Yeah. Like, for me, that case begins and ends with like, and I know like people like tend to forget that I'm a lawyer and I deal in DNA.
Yeah.
I know what the problems of transfer DNA and touch DNA are.
Sure.
I realize how dangerous it can be. I mean, there's some like just epically like horrifying cases out there with transfer DNA where people were literally in like not only found guilty, but have been executed based on transfer DNA where it was like, I mean, there's that classic case with the paramedic who was dealing with the homeless dude. And, he had been working on a victim who was deceased. And just prior to treating this homeless guy, and there's transfer DNA from him to the guy that he then works on later. And this guy is ultimately convicted. It's I mean, transfer DNA is a problem. So what I'm saying is twofold. One, I'm going to tell you all in the chat that just don't understand the power of DNA in a court of law with juries. It is exceptionally powerful. Mm-hmm. Exceptionally powerful. All right. It is unequivocally powerful. And short of that profile that they were able to develop being an absolute turd, which it may be, because again, we don't know anything about the strength of that profile. We like the fight has always been about the IgG.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Ann Taylor trying to keep this DNA out the profile because it is shitty, meaning like there's like, because like you have to have a certain amount of loci that they are able to match in order for it to even be put into CODIS. All right. So like I don't know any of that. We're not going to know that raw data of the DNA until trial. If it turns out to be a strong profile, I'm here to tell you that he's going to be convicted.
Yeah.
That's it. So like that is like I've said that a million times on lives. I just don't understand why people like aren't believing me on that.
No,
it's very powerful evidence. It just is. If they find out that he purchased, even though they haven't found the weapon, they found the sheath that goes with the weapon.
If
And
yeah,
it has his DNA on it.
if they go to the Amazon list and that's on it.
Because Megan keeps talking about not neurodivergent, and like I'm not talking about any of that.
Yeah,
I'm talking about what little evidence I know. I
yeah,
don't know Brian Kohberger from a hole in the ground. I don't know
sure.
any of his psychology. I saw a motion filed that he's autistic.
Mhm.
I mean, they're going to have to put that out there. Like they're going to
Well,
have to put those records out there that
yeah.
he is autistic. I mean, I know that like like the defense is going to make shit up out of whole cloth.
How powerful is that argument though? I mean, because I feel like that could work against him too. I mean, I get she's trying to fight for his life in that motion, but at the same point, you're introducing this. I think it almost, I mean, you go, okay, well, this is kind of part of his recipe. The first time I saw him, the first time I learned about his actions, I thought he was on the spectrum. It was like, okay, this guy is somewhere over here. And very functional, and knows his stuff almost to a superpower level. But it's not experienced, not enough reps in life to really pull it off very well quite yet, but enough to be dangerous. He certainly seems to exhibit a lot of those signs. And that, again, autism is not something where you don't know the difference between right and wrong. You very much do. It may make you be a little depending on where you are on this spectrum, because it's a huge continuum. You could be, you laugh at things differently. You find other things interesting. You can focus on things to a somewhat obsessive level. I will myself tell you, I believe I am somewhere in the Asperger's area in terms of like being able to be obsessed with things to a level of making it very profitable and drive. But that to me is a superpower. If used correctly, those things can be very, very beneficial. When used incorrectly, they can be very, very, detrimental. So to me, it almost plays more into the narrative of this seems like, okay, the two can coexist, being somewhere on the autism spectrum and being a sociopath or a psychopath or anything in the dark triad or anything where we have antisocial personality disorders, wherever he may fall, because it's probably a combination of a whole bunch of things. And at the end of the day, it's a bunch of words, but it plays more into his recipe of him making sense for this way of thinking than it does against.
Yeah, and the interesting thing about cases from the lawyer's perspective like this is, for instance, when we represented Anthony Garcia, and and I started to get all the discovery in, and Anthony our client had always maintained his innocence, that I didn't do
Mhm.
this. Like I couldn't really get answers as to why he was in Omaha the day of, the second set of homicides. And, it was like, in a case where you have a situation where your client is telling you they are factually innocent, that they didn't do it, and you're confronting them with the evidence that they have, and you're saying, well, we've got problems here. Like, we've got some bad facts that we're really going to have a hard time getting over at trial. Like, this
Mhm.
is going to be very powerful to a jury,
Yeah.
because like people misconstrue what I say with, like, I almost talk of everything in terms of cases with respect to how a jury is going to come back
Yeah.
with a potential verdict, not what I personally feel.
Because that's what matters.
Because that, like
Yeah.
my opinion doesn't matter for shit in terms
Yeah.
of whether or not I think he's guilty or not. But what I do have some insight in is what juries do,
Mhm.
and what they find to be powerful evidence. And in that case in particular, when like Ann Taylor knows her client, she's having a lot of conversations with Brian Kohberger. Ann Taylor knows what all of the discovery is. She knows what all of the evidence is. She's doing a phenomenal job as a defense attorney protecting her client's
Yeah.
rights in that case. She is filing everything that I would expect to see a death penalty certified lawyer doing on behalf of her client. And what the other thing that I can tell is that Brian Kohberger is telling her that he didn't do this,
Mhm.
because I would have to think if she thought there was enough there, which also leads me to the point where I think that she thinks that she can attack the DNA to a certain extent, because if you get to a point where you're defending somebody and they've done something or they're alleged to have done something horrible like this, and we're talking about the murder of 4 young college students in the prime of their life, as an attorney, if you're not contemplating the concept of some sort of mental defect, and now in Idaho, the insanity defense is not a thing. It is not available to them. They do not have that as a defense out there. What they have is that you can attack the mens rea portion of the statute, meaning that he because of a mental defect, he could not like his mens rea couldn't get to the point where he was able to understand right from wrong. Like there was a portion of his mind that would not allow him to either think that they were a human being. Like it was the Lori Vallow thing. Like in her case, I'm like, if I was defending her, I would have been begging her to say, all right, look, your religious beliefs are what they are. I tend to believe that you believe that your kids were demons. I think we need to go with the mental defect defense, wherein we're attacking that you could not form the requisite mental intent to commit the crime, that you didn't think that your children were humans. You thought that they were demons. And so that is not the requisite mental intent, that they have to be able to prove that. So like the fact that she's not doing any of that in this case is interesting, but it also tells me that, it would be interesting to know if they had the insanity defense available in Idaho, what this case would be like.
Yeah, I'd be curious in a lot of these cases in Idaho what it would be like. I mean, the Lori Vallow is a great example. Like if she's not considered crazy as hell, I don't know what is. I mean, did you see her the other night with Keith on Dateline? I mean, and then her today in court too was like, what the hell was that? Yeah, I mean, yeah, she's not there. And I think she actually does believe her kids are demons too. But
I do. I think she's completely on board everything that she's always said.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's unbelievable. It's like Allison and I covered her first trial when they were just releasing the sound, and like when we were recording the episode where I first heard Colby and her on that jailhouse call, where I'm hearing this kid like tried to come to grips with who his mother had turned out to be and what she was. Like I could not, I was hysterically sobbing while we were like recording this episode. Like it hit me in such a profound way. I could not, like I couldn't, I like, and Allison was recording with me. I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't stop crying. It's like, just like, it like crushed me, like hearing Colby in that conversation.
Yeah. I mean, it's like the ultimate betrayal.
Oh my God, dude. It was like, I couldn't do it. But yeah, that thing was nuts. So I like, look, we got to wait till trial. Like any of y'all in chat that got videos that you want me to see. I know somebody sent me one. I'll watch it. I will watch it. Like I'll watch anything that you've put out there, in terms of like, but like, you just have to remember, and I'm begging you all to hear me when I'm saying this. If you think that we know all of the evidence from the pretrial motions that have been filed, you're in for a rude awakening.
Yeah.
You're in for a rude awakening. We just don't know until trial.
What I want to know most about the Kohberger case is the digital footprint, the digital evidence. Like that's going to be, I think it's going to blow the DNA out of the water. I think we've seen it in so many cases recently where it's like, okay, yeah, DNA is pretty damn strong, but you also like Googling how to like melt your wife. It's also like a little questionable that you're doing this the day that she's dead. I'm curious as to what we're going to find there in terms of if there's stalking, if there's anything. If any of it, any attempted communications. And I mean, and the guy, he's a journaler, he's a writer, he's very systematic on some of these things. If we go all the way back to, his research, his, seeing the visual snow, everything, I'm going to guess there's probably some documentation here as to his state of mind. That's going to be on some of these computers or digital devices. Could be wrong. I'd be shocked if there isn't. But I think we're going to find such a footprint there that's going to show us, okay, without a doubt, this guy.
Well, I mean,
I'd be shocked. I could be wrong. I could eat crow.
Yeah, I mean, the footprint that will matter most is if he bought a K-bar.
That's it. Look at the shopping list. If the K-bar's there, I think it's done. But I think there's going to be so much more icing on this cake that you're going to get sick of the frosting. You're going to be like, this is horrible. This is too much.
Yeah. Oh, so Larisha, I want you to like somebody send me this video. You're the
Huh.
like you guys keep talking about this video of some random guy walking up to a dumpster around the time of the crime, throwing something out, and a car picks him up. Just wanted to know if you find that suspicious. Definitely. Like, that is definitely suspicious. I mean, in a
Kohberger
college
gets picked up?
town, like there's apparently a video that I think it was taken from Linda Lane, like the building that was like I think right across the
Okay.
street. But it's right there.
Yeah.
It's in the
Yeah.
street I think that goes behind because you've got
Yeah.
so apparently there's this video out there that got that's circulating out there that there's some random dude walks up to a dumpster around
Mhm.
the time of the crime, throwing something out, and then a car picks him up.
That'd
So
be
like
interesting. Yeah.
that it'll definitely be interesting. I definitely want to see that.
Yeah.
So, and I'm assuming that the defense will provide
Well,
that to the jury at
if it
trial.
exists and if it can be tied back that this is actually tied to this crime and it's not just somebody's TikTok that's gone insane.
You're right. I mean, like that's the thing.
Yeah.
I know, like I don't know if Sleuthy's in here now, but I know there was some kind of Linda Lane video that like was a bit controversial like a year back. I don't even
Mhm.
know what the whole story was. It's like, but like as far as like I just need everybody to understand, I don't really read the newspapers and I don't really watch the news. So anything that I've developed in terms of my thought on this case has only been from the probable cause affidavit and the filings in the case.
Yeah.
Like whatever may have been like the only thing I've ever seen that like about this case that I watched was the Dateline where Coffin Daffer was on there,
Mhm.
and she let slip in that particular episode that she was privy to the information that they found the purchase of the K-bar knife.
Mhm.
And like I was like, whoa. Like when that like I tweeted a thing and I tagged Dateline in it. I'm like, well, either you got a leak or somebody's breaking a gag order
Yeah.
here. And they're like, because Coffin Daffer's like I rewound it 15 times to see if she said it, and she definitively said it.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I'm like that, no. And so that producer of that Dateline came up to my table at CrimeCon, and like had taken great exception to my tweet.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh well, I'm like, Shane, I take great exception to you making my wife look like shit on Dateline. So what do you have to say about that, buddy? It's
Who is
like
it to take exception to? I mean, it was just like, okay, where did this come from?
right. So yeah, look, like Kohberger is going to be a fascinating trial in a lot of different ways, and I have not formed any final opinion at all.
Yeah, I mean, I want to see it all. I'm going to be shocked if there's not a lot of digital stuff, but only time will tell. Got to see it all out in court and see it exactly what is going to happen. We can all assume all these things, but I'm ready to say I could be wrong too if things point in a different direction. But as of now, the way things sit, it doesn't look all that positive for Mr.
Yeah, I mean, with me not knowing shit,
No.
if they get to trial and they have all kinds of exculpatory evidence, of course.
Yeah.
Defense attorney Guy Vermectin.
Of course. Yeah.
Like again, I'm going to say this one final time. Everybody's allowed to have, including lawyers, is allowed to have an initial opinion.
Yeah.
What I always ask people to do is don't form a final opinion on anything until the thing has gone to trial, because that's the only time that we get to see the evidence vetted.
Yeah.
It's such a simple concept, and it shouldn't be going in like anybody who's on our channel all the time. It should not be going over your heads because I pound it into your brains.
It's really just a good philosophy for life, unless it's like something that's like there's no negotiating this, this is how you just basic principles. But on things you don't know about, things that can be variable, things that can change, never form the final opinion. Always keep learning, always keep growing, always keep getting other input from other people so you can bounce it back and forth. I mean, that's how we grow. That's how we understand things better.
Yeah, 100%. So yes, I did say exculpatory to me. And Julia, I need to see some kind of if the profile, the DNA profile on that sheath is strong, I'm going to need to see some kind of exculpatory evidence as to why Kohberger's DNA is on that sheath that was found under the girls.
Yeah, I've yet to hear
they have no burden. However, in order for me to think that there's a reasonable explanation how that happened, that would be exculpatory evidence.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Yeah, I mean,
Bring it up.
So yeah, like I'm not saying that the defense has any kind of burden to prove that he didn't do it, but in order to get that thing to where it needs to be in the eyes of a jury, it has to be transfer DNA. Like everything is transfer DNA.
Yeah.
Like unless it's found inside of you, like in an essay case, if they find semen, that's like, and that's still transfer DNA.
Yeah,
it's transferred from one person to another. If you're in the commission of a crime and you sweat and you leave that drop of sweat and they are able to pull DNA out, that's transfer DNA. It doesn't just have to be touch.
Yeah.
If you are injured and you bleed on somebody, that is transfer DNA.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's a lot we don't know on this case yet. A lot.
To be honest with you, I feel like we don't know jack shit.
I think we probably know about 10% of it.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, it's like I'm ready for it. It's August, so
yeah.
All right, dude. I'm gonna go eat dinner.
Enjoy.
You're amazing. You're an awesome human being.
Hey, you are too. Thank you for everything you've done for our show over at Hidden Killers and True Crime Today.
Always, dude. And let everybody know again where they can find you.
So anywhere you get podcasts, Hidden Killers with Tony Brueski, just search for that. You will find us, or on YouTube as well. We got the channel there where we're putting all of our videos up. You can see me and Bob every single week talking about all these cases.
All the time. Every week, baby. All right. And I'll talk to you Friday.
All right. Sounds good.
All right, brother. Thanks.
All right. Thank you.
See ya.
See ya.
All right, y'all. I'm exhausted. I've been on for whatever since 3:30. It's been a five-hour run. You guys are the best. You guys are the best. Listen, we're allowed to disagree. We are allowed to disagree. But I'm going to tell any of you, if you've got video you want me to look at, I'll look at it. Send it to me. But I always take everything prior to trial with a grain of salt. You know what I mean? It's the right thing to do. And so should you. No matter which side you're on, until we get to trial, just don't form your final opinion, because that's when we know. That is when we will know. Oh, and yeah, I for the record, I definitely think that Corey Richards poisoned her husband. Oops. Sorry, not sorry. But I'll wait until trial to see what kind of evidence they have. So you guys are the best mods. You are amazing. Thank you for hanging with me all day. It's been an unbelievable long day. Remember, tomorrow night, Anjanette Levy, she's coming on with us. We'll be getting into Idaho 4. I can guarantee you, Anjanette very much, I think, is of the mindset that they got the right guy. So prepare your battle in chat tomorrow. It should be interesting. And like I said, I'm not an echo chamber over here. I'm a defense attorney. And like they got to prove their shit at trial before anything takes hold in my brain. So, like that's that. However, like I like hearing both sides of the argument, like leading into trial, because at this point we're all speculating on what we think things mean. So, and I think that's an interesting discourse that we can have in here. So I hope I'll see you guys all there tomorrow, because if not, I'll just be an old man talking about Brian Kohberger. Later.